You've tuned into Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie Estes. Your access to success strategies and more to help you move onward and upward with your life. Listen in each week as she interviews others who have really taken their essence to the next level and truly unpaused their life. Now here's your host, Dr. Callie Estes.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. This is Dr. Callie Estes, and I am founder of the Addictions Academy, the Addictions Coach, and Rehab Rescue. Welcome to Unpause Your Life. This is a great podcast where we showcase people who have done something extraordinary with their life. I welcome you, and I hope you enjoy all of our guests.
On my way, found a reason to wake up another day.
You are listening to Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie Estes of the Addictions Coach and the Addictions Academy. I am very, very excited for my guest today. You know him. He's an internet sensation. I want you to welcome James Sweezie to my podcast. He is a true street to success story. He currently lives in Louisville, although I'm not quite sure why, with his girlfriend Elena and their 2 children. He is an active member of the recovery community and its surrounding areas. He can be found speaking about his personal story of recovery and providing hope for those in homeless shelters all the way to the Capitol building. He is best known for his social media presence on James Sweezie Live and as a radio host on Recovery Radio FM. Welcome, James.
Hey, Callie. How's it going?
Good. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm very busy, as you know, just like you. Ever since I took your training course to be a nationally certified interventionist at the Addictions Academy, I've just been adding on since we met doing that. I've been adding on more speaking dates, more travel dates, working on my book, working on my internet and web presence, and building our new treatment center. So awesome. You know the drill.
You've been busy. You've been more busy than me, it sounds like.
Yeah, well, I say showing up is 100% of the battle, because if you don't show up, you lose 100% of the time. So I just keep showing up no matter how tired I get, or, we were discussing earlier, you're having one of those days, kind of an off day. It happens. But look, we showed up anyway, right?
That is true. That is true. So tell me how you got here. Because obviously you didn't, wake up and become an internet sensation and write a book and open a treatment center and travel all around. What was your path like to get here? What would you change? What were some of your struggles? And what are you doing with that information now?
Well, that's a good question. What would I change? I don't know if I would change anything, Callie, other than the distress put on my family, right? Forget about the distress and all that put on me, because I always tell people, like, all right, this is a corny example, but Eminem is supposed to be the best rapper in the world, right? Look at everything he went through that caused him to be the absolute best at what he does. Now, I'm not saying I'm the absolute best at what I do, but my past, the journey that I went through, defined all of this. It manifests into what I do today. So I don't know that I want to go back and change anything. I have a great relationship with my father and my mother, my 2 daughters, and as you said, Elena, the mother of my children. We live here in Louisville. We're not sure why either. So, right. It's cold.
You're building a treatment center out there, right? Tell me about that.
We are. Okay. So we, some friends of mine that are down by you, they called me. I was on the internet. I was putting out videos. I maybe had a couple thousand followers, and some guys reached out for me from my hometown here in Louisville, Kentucky. They reached out, popped up in my inbox and said, "Hey man, we would love to bring you and your wife down to Florida to see our treatment center." And of course, I called Elena immediately. I said, "Hey, I got some whack job in my inbox that's talking about we should come stay on the beach and see their treatment center." And she said, "Well, we've been wanting to pay." She said, "Well, at the time, Callie, we're living in this little 2-bedroom apartment. We had 2 brand new little babies. I'm working in a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
I believe she was working in a restaurant at the time. So we didn't have a whole lot of money." It was like, you know what? We'll just take their vacation. We'll get our parents to watch the kids, and we'll just go and take their hotel and hang out on the beach. And who cares what they say, right? So we lined it up. We went down there, and I met Travis and Justin, who are now my business partners, and they took me on a tour of a treatment center that we no longer work with. That's the particular one. One of them was part owner. So we went and looked at it. And what I loved about these guys were, they were very open. They did medical detox, right? They used, certain medically assisted treatment. They used certain medically assisted methods to get people off of dope, off of whatever. And then they went to an abstinence model, right? So they were putting people through a treatment center, but they were promoting 12-step. I'm a heavy 12-step guy. That's what I do. And, they were not prescribing long-term medication to these people, which if someone's being prescribed long-term medication, that's fine. I'm not hating on that. What I'm saying is they were doing it the way that I was taught.
Right.
And while I was down
detox.
there, yeah, for detox, right? Using, the one, Suboxone method or whatever.
Right.
There's a bunch of different ones. Some detoxes even use hydrocodone to get someone off of methadone, whatever.
I'm going to stop you and I'm going to say they were doing it what it was designed for, because this is where I get myself in trouble because I don't like long-term MAT. I agree with you. It was designed for detox, and then let's get on with the rest of your life. Let's not use this.
Exactly.
Okay.
And what I don't like, I'm like you, Callie. I don't have any problem with MAT, right? I have a problem with certain providers. I've been told that I would need to be on that stuff for the rest of my life.
That's bullshit. See, I call bullshit.
January. Yeah, exactly. Well, I call bullshit too because, January 11th of this year, I celebrated 6 years abstinent. No drugs, no alcohol. Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Very much.
You didn't need it for the rest of your life? Really?
I did not.
You didn't die? You didn't relapse?
I did not. No,
wow.
Because, I was taught through my 12-step recovery program that there's one problem and one solution. Now, there's other ways to come about recovery, but what I mean by that is that I suffer from a spiritual malady. And spirituality we define as humility plus responsibility. I was not humble and I did not take responsibility for anything in my life. And the center that I went through had to teach me to humble myself. I went through a homeless shelter, right? It did not smell good in there. We had chores. We didn't have vehicles, didn't have phones, anything like that. It was very humbling to sit and look at yourself and say, this is what I've become. All of my decision making, all of the net result of everything I know in my life gets me to a homeless shelter with track marks up my arm. So it's a very humbling experience to surrender and live in a place like that. And then they taught me responsibility through a 12-step program where I look at my character defects. I look at my personal shortcomings, all of the things that I do, nobody else. I look at all the things that I do that causes Sweezie to be homeless with track marks. And then I go about using a sponsor and a support group and a fellowship to correct those behaviors. So that's the way I was taught to do it. And then I see these guys, they're down there, they're doing it the same way. And at the time I was the head chef at a very popular Italian restaurant, and they made me an offer while I was down there that was a salary increase for me. And what they had saw me on the internet, doing a few videos, getting a few views here and there. But the way that they found me was, I can't use the person's name right here, but a celebrity of sorts shared one of my videos, and they happened to follow said celebrity. They were following that person. And so they saw me on this video and they were like, hold on, this guy's wearing a Louisville hat. I had a Louisville Cardinal hat on. They said, he's from Louisville. That I didn't know it at the time, but they had already had plans to maybe come back to Kentucky at some point and open another center. They're already functioning and operating down there in Fort Lauderdale. And so they told me that while we were standing out there. It'll be 3 years in June coming up that they invited us down and we went on that trip. And they told me while I was standing there, they said, hey man, just do things the right way. We don't pay bonuses. We don't do anything. There's no per client type of thing. You can earn a salary with us. And their specific instructions were, you help anybody. Help them get into the homeless shelter. If that's what's required, help them get into a Medicaid facility or our facility. And if we're not a fit, send them to somebody else. If you just do that, the rest of the business will take care of itself. And I accepted their offer while I was down there. Like I said, 3 years ago in June. And just, I guess it was February 27th, the first bulldozer showed up and started clearing the ground here in Kentucky.
Wow.
We have 7 acres of beautiful Kentucky bluegrass right up in the hills, great views. And we're building 25,000 square feet inpatient, medical detox. And then on the other side of the building, residential care. So, it's going to be a 4 to 5 week deal if you come to us for a full stay.
Right.
And, one of the things from their experience down there in working in treatment, which I have some of that experience now, and my experience in dealing with a homeless shelter, we really have the full gamut. Like if you're in Kentucky, I'll say this anyway, if you call me, you get a bed that day, either at the free place, which is not, it's a beautiful place. or at a Medicaid facility or in private treatment, whatever we can get you to at the time, if you call. So it's a great model. And from their experience in Fort Lauderdale, and I see it up here as well, we decided that we wanted to build this program where it's co-ed. We could have males and females, but they're completely separated. So all the detox clients are in one building and they're separated, male and female. Now they'll have common areas where they can go to group together, common areas to eat, things like that. But there's no reason for a male to ever walk past a female's room. There's absolutely no reason. The way that, because we're building from the ground up. Same thing on residential side. And the residential clients and the detox clients have separate common areas and separate meeting rooms. So you will not have someone sitting here with, let's say, 3 or 4 days abstinent, 3 or 4 days completely off of a substance, sitting next to someone in a group that's nodding off. So we wanted that separate. So really, we're getting to build it the way we want. It's called the Robert Alexander Center for Recovery. It's named after a friend of ours that passed away sober on his sobriety date.
Oh, wow.
It was a couple of years ago. The guys came up from Fort Lauderdale, and his Thanksgiving was his sobriety date. And they came up to visit for Thanksgiving. And unfortunately, Alex was found. He had passed from congestive heart failure in his sleep on his sobriety date. So he had a good run at it, a few years there. He died sober, and this facility is being built in his name.
Wow. Horrible thing to happen to somebody on their sobriety date, but yet all this good has come of it. So it's kind of interesting the way you guys turned that around. And it sounds like there's a good model there, a good clean model. I love it. There's not a whole lot in Louisville. So it'll be good services.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping. It's going to be good services, and we're actually allocating 10% of our beds to the community. So 50-bed facility, we're going to make 5 on each side available to people that have absolutely nothing. You know as well as I do, Callie, like you wish you could just open the whole building up and fill it up and keep it full with who cares at any given time, but it is a business. We do have to function and operate. So we're allocating 10% of our beds straight to the community. There's some people that will not be a fit for us, and we will absolutely build referral relationships with you, with other people. And there's some people that will have nothing, that they will get an opportunity to have treatment and a shot at recovery through one of our scholarship beds.
Awesome. That's great. It's a wonderful idea. Now so we didn't talk about your history. How did you get into the addiction space? I mean, I know you met people over here, but obviously you have to be in recovery. So tell me about your story. How did you end up here? I know you got arrested. Tell me about that. And then we'll talk about the book.
Which time?
Let's talk about the first one. What's the first thing you did that you got caught for?
First thing I got caught for, arrested. That would be as a kid at 16 years old. I had a BB gun in my car, and we were playing around downtown somewhere, and I pulled it. It looked like a little pistol, right? Like a 9mm or something, a little brown handle on it, a black barrel. It was a BB gun though. And my friend pulled up beside me, and I was fooling with him, and I pointed it out the window and said, "What's up, punk?" Something to that effect. Like that, and a cop saw me do it, and they rushed over. And even though it was a BB gun, they arrested me. They took me down to a juvenile center. They impounded my car. You don't do that. You know, as a 16-year-old, I wasn't really thinking about it that much. It was just a buddy of mine I was waving it at, and it was a BB gun. But to them, we were in the inner city. I lived in the country mostly. We were in the inner city. To them, somebody was about to get their brains blown out in traffic, and it obviously pissed them off. So that was the first time. But I think it's important to note that I lost count of how many times I've been arrested. I've never been to the penitentiary. Not that I'm better than anyone. I come from a family of means. They were always able to bail me out or pay a lawyer or something like that. So, but I've been arrested a lot of times, number of DUIs, a number of possession charges. The biggest one, and I talk about this in the book. The biggest is at 20 years old, I got caught with over 8 ounces of marijuana, and I had individual bags. I had a box of Glad baggies. I had one of those little hand scales, and it was all in a backpack. So I was charged with felony trafficking narcotics. It's in the book, but to keep a long story short here, basically through fighting with my family and not getting along, we're restless, irritable, and discontent. We're dangerously antisocial when we're out there in our addiction. And I was in full-blown addiction at the time to cocaine, alcohol. I wasn't on opiates yet, so I didn't have that physical addiction, but I was abusing other narcotics. And I was arrested, And whenever it came time to ask my family for the money to pay for the lawyer and to get me out of jail, that started a lot of arguments, a lot of very uncomfortable days for me. So, what I did was I completely, I just didn't talk to my family. I didn't tell them about the court dates or anything. And I went by myself to a court date, and I had, I think, $1,000 on me. And I walk into the courthouse down there, and there's a guy standing there. He's actually disbarred right now. I won't use his name. But I walked in, and there's a guy standing there, kind of a sloppy guy. And I said, "Are you a lawyer?" He said, "Yes." I was like, "Well, look, I lied. I was like, I got $500 because I wanted to keep the other 500 to get high later." I said, "I got $500. I will pay you to go in here and talk to this judge, whatever." So he looked at my case and he said, "Look, man, the best thing for you to do is plead guilty and tell them you'll never do it again. That way they won't send you to prison." And he said, "Don't worry about it. You'll get the felony taken off later." I didn't know that you had to have a pardon from a governor to get a felony, or the president to get a felony taken off. So I agreed. I walked in. I pled guilty. I was put on 5 years of paper. And it wasn't until later on down the road that I would find out that you can't have a felony taken off. So that was the big one. But that was at 20 years old. And my addiction continued after that. So kind of, you're run of the mill thing. I was in an auto accident, got hooked on pills. I went through the whole Suboxone and methadone thing. I was abusing pills, Callie, from a pill mill in Tampa, the Rockeset 30s. I was taking 30 of those a day, snorting 10 of them at a time. Well, I was doctor shopping. I knew several locations where I could go get a bottle of, I think it was 240 of them a day was the legal limit, like 8 a day. I could get a bottle of 240 at several different locations. It started with this business plan. The entrepreneur in me said, "Well, these are $1 a piece in Florida. I'll sell them in Kentucky for $30 a piece," right? Because they go for $1 a milligram up in the hills. And that business plan didn't really work out. I ended up to where I would sell off some of them down there in Florida, but for the most part, they were all for personal use. And then I had to add on more doctors to keep up with my habit because the legal limit was 8 a day and I was taking 30 a day. So I needed several doctors. And you know the story. Anybody that's listening to this that's dealt with addiction knows the story of how we crash, how much we use, how we manipulate and twist our families, going to different, and you know this, Callie, as an interventionist, going to different family members so I can get different answers. Triangulation, right? One of the things you taught me about intervention is we get everybody on the same page where the addict gets the same answer from everyone. The answer is no, here's your trash bag, go to treatment, or take your ass to the homeless shelter, right? So everybody knows that part of it. But the thing for me, I was going through this addiction as a felon. And that's why I named my book Felon, A Story of Success. I was going through this addiction, and I remember trying to go out. I got jobs, right? But I would get a job at a restaurant or something, try to move up, try to get into management, or I would go apply for something in some larger company. And the answer always came back the same. "Sorry, we can't offer you anything at this time." And I knew it was because of a couple things, the felony, but plus all the other arrests that they could see at the time. Right. DUIs, possession charges, disorderly conduct. So it wasn't just the felony. I'm still a felon right now. I still have it on my record. I'm doing just fine, but I could not, in my mind anyway, succeed in life. And I remember thinking, "Oh, you want a dope dealer and you want a menace to society? I'll give you a dope dealer and a menace to society." And that's what I did. Continued to sell narcotics, lose jobs, find new jobs. I had moments of trying to get out of it all, but I try to go straight and it didn't work out. But what eventually happened, Callie, is after a long run of addiction, a lot of being tired, a lot of consequences, my family did exactly what you teach families to do. Al-Anon, come along. Am I allowed to cuss on here? I almost cuss.
Absolutely.
Anyway, bastards. No, I love Al-Anon. I'm just kidding. I love you Al-Anons that are out there listening. You all saved my life. See, a lot of people ask me, how did I get into treatment? How did I get into recovery? The answer is Al-Anon. And not because I went to a meeting and asked for help, because Al-Anon took my mother, my father, my aunt, my uncle, and put everybody on the same page. And I got the same answer from everyone, very much like an intervention that you would do. And I remember I'm sitting down in this apartment. Callie, I went out of town. I went out of the country. I'm sorry. And tried Ibogaine. You ever heard of that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I flew down to San Jose, Costa Rica. I did Ibogaine. My buddy said it's the magical cure for addiction, right? So,
I love the cure word.
Yeah. It's the magical cure. It was the cure, right? So I go down to San Jose, Costa Rica. I take the cure, and 24 hours later, I was on my feet. I had a backpack on. I was like, man, this is great. I'm kind of high, still off that ibogaine stuff, but I don't feel withdrawal sickness. And they would give me smaller doses over the next few days to kind of keep me out of withdrawals. It worked for symptom removal. That's an important thing. Symptom removal. Like I didn't feel sick. I don't encourage anyone to go do that. There's better, cheaper, safer ways right here, where you live. And it is very expensive. The whole trip is like 15 grand, but go down, I take it and I feel better. Day 2 or 3 later, I'm on my feet and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go into town and get a fajita. That's that delusion. I was lying to myself. I was really going to get drunk because I went straight into town and I didn't, I went to a place that had neon signs in the window and people were shooting pool and all that. And it was loud and rowdy in there and I heard music. I was like, yeah, I'll go in here and get something to eat. And I got blasted at the bar off tequila and I actually blacked out and woke up in the jungle's not the right word, maybe a little further off into the rainforest. I woke up in a barn and I was like, but I just took the magical cure for addiction. There's more to that story, which is in my book, but I just took the magical cure for addiction. And here I am laying on a dirt floor. I blacked out last night. What happened? And so I flew back here to Kentucky. I did heroin for a little while later, but then the Al-Anon thing came together when my aunt, who's 30 years sober at the time, and got a hold of my mom and they started asking for help. Everybody calls this the pizza story, Kelly. I called my mom. You know how we do. I'm asking for rent money. I've got every excuse in the book. And I called my mom and I said, hey, I'm starving over here. I haven't eaten in a couple days. I've been out running doing dope. And she said, well, listen, I want you to go to the Healing Place. That's the name of the homeless shelter I went to. Wonderful place, by the way. And I was like, no, I'm not going there. I'm not homeless. I'm living in this apartment. And she's like, you are homeless. My name's on that apartment. I pay the rent. And I was like, well, I'm not going. I said, and we argued back and forth a little bit. My mom's in tears. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll go to the place tomorrow if you'll just order me a pizza tonight. And I can hear people in the background tell him, no, you're not doing it. And I'm like, who the fuck are y'all? Who you talking to my mother like this? You know what I mean? Who the fuck is that? And who dare you talk to I'm over here robbing my mother. They're trying to protect her, but I was cussing them too. Right. So how dare you all talk to my mother this way? And, tell him no, he's not doing it. My aunt pulls up out in front of the house with the 30 years sober and my mother in tears gives me an option. You can get in that car and go to that homeless shelter place where they feed you. They give you chores. You have a job. You stay there 9 months. You build your life up and start all over. Or, and here's your thing, or you can take all your shit and put it in a trash bag and go live in the tent city up there. Right. And that was the discussion we had over the phone. And, everybody in tears and all that. I tapped out. It was freezing cold outside. I don't do cold very well. And I was like, I'm not going to live in a tent.
Let's just pause there for a second.
Yeah.
So your rent's being paid, your food's being paid, everything's being taken care of, and you're calling to get a pizza and negotiating with a pizza, right? For $20 pizza, I'll do whatever you want because I'm starving. And then you're being told, go live in the rain, in the tent, in the cold. No pizza, no apartment, get your shit together. Exactly. And you went,
That's it.
What did you say? Fine.
I don't want to say I said fine. It was more of a fuck this, fuck all them. I hope you all die. You know what I'm saying? There was that moment first. The book describes it as huge emotional displacements and rearrangements where the guiding forces of the lives of these men are suddenly cast to one side and a whole new set of conceptions and motives begin to dominate. It's one of my favorite sentences in the literature I read, right? So I had this huge emotional displacement and rearrangement, which would be described as a vital or life-giving spiritual experience, right? And I'm sitting out and I knew right then, Kelly, it was over. This is done. Like everybody else had been on my ass for a long time, cut me off long ago. My mother was the only one that I was able to string along this far, and it was over. And I had that moment. I dropped my hands. My mom screaming and crying, my aunt standing outside with a smile on her face like, honey, please come with me. They met me where I was at, if you will. They weren't cussing me and calling me names, right? They were offering me, you take this help or you get the hell out of our lives. That was it. And I dropped my hands. And again, I don't like the cold. It was freaking January and, in Kentucky. And I got in the back of my aunt's car and she drove me up to that. I left a 70-inch flat screen and a PlayStation, a laptop, a couch, a bed, dressers. I packed one backpack and I moved out of that house. And I told the guy that was, I was like, you can have all that shit. You can have my TV and everything. It was a couple days after I went that I told him that. But yeah, let go of everything. And I walk into the free detox they have down there. At the time, I'm on heroin. I went and done Ibogaine and I came back and I'm on heroin again. And, I go into that detox and, I check in. I didn't want to be there, and something really amazing happened. There's a lady there. I love her. She still works there to this day. Her name's Miss Pam, older African-American lady. And, I'm out back smoking a cigarette, right? And then after you've been at this place for 24 hours, you're required to go to a 12-step meeting of some sort. And I said, I'm standing out back smoking. They said, everybody, you've been here 24 hours, go to the meeting. I said, all right. You have to walk out of the building, walk across the street to go to this meeting. As I'm walking out, Miss Pam stops me. She says, hey, 123, that's my bed number. Sweezie, go make your bed. And the look of just pure, I don't know what the word is to describe the look on my face. My jaw dropped, my eyes got big. I'm like, Pam, that dude's naked. That dude just puked. We're all in here detoxing. Why do you want me to make my bed? Don't you know who the fuck I am, right? I don't make my own bed, and right, I'm James Clayton Sweezie. That you heard?
She don't give a fuck who you are. You are going to go make your fucking bed.
Oh, that quick. She did not give a fuck. Let me tell you how she expressed that. She said, what are you here for? Now, this is where some solid 12-step work came in, right? She looked at me and said, what are you here for, young man? I said, well, I would like to have a decent job, my car back, my family, some fucking friends, maybe some money where I can take a vacation every once in a while and live normal. And she goes, okay, stop, big baller. She said, you want all of that responsibility, but you won't make your own fucking bed.
She's right.
What do you say to that, Kelly? She's right.
You're right. I'll make my bed.
Well, right. Well, then she hit me with the most important part of it all. She said, also, if you don't want to make your bed, the door is not locked. You can leave.
Yep.
And I had another one of those experiences like I had with my mother. I went, you know what? This is it. This is it right here. I'm either the guy living in Tent City, hauling a tent around, flying a sign on the side of the road, begging people for change or something, or I can follow these guys over. And they remove barriers at the healing place, right? Like I had a bed. It didn't cost me any money. There was food there. There was something to drink. I had a blanket. They even give you one free cigarette an hour if you're a smoker, and you can't afford them until you can bum some off of the other people, whatever. And that moment happened. She said, you can leave. And I was like, damn, I in my mind, Kelly, I want like a Maserati, like same one you want, I'm sure.
Okay.
I want a Maserati. I want a mansion on the hills out here in Kentucky somewhere for my girls to grow up, and a vacation house down there right next to you in Miami with maybe a boat in the dock or something somewhere. But at 34 years old, 35 at the time, 35 years old, I won't wash my own clothes, make my own bed, or wipe my own ass. But somewhere in my head, I tell myself I'm deserving of a yacht and a mansion and a vacation condo.
Of course.
Right? That's the delusion that was my alcoholism.
And
so
let's add to that. So here you are in the homeless shelter, getting ready to get your ass tossed out of the homeless shelter. Like that doesn't happen. Right?
What's that?
Getting tossed out of the homeless shelter because you don't want to make your bed because you think you're above making your bed. And that's when the light bulb went off. It went, yes. I'm in the homeless shelter. Mom and family turned their back on me. Here I am. And I think I'm so important that someone else should make my bed. That's when the light bulb kicked on and went, who the fuck do you think you are? Get in there, make your bed, and get your shit together. And that's awesome.
That's it.
That's awesome.
It. And it's different, Callie, and I work in private treatment. I'm opening a private treatment center, but there is a difference when you're looking at a place where if I'm a paying client, they tend to be a little more tolerating of me, right?
Mm-hmm.
At this place, there's no paying clients. They will tell you to get the fuck out in a heartbeat. And that's what I needed though. There's a lot of professionals, there's a lot of people that go through treatment, do very well, that didn't have to go all the way down there where I went. But that's what I needed. Right. And the reality set in, it sinks in. It's just like you talked about, Callie, the suitcase or the trash bag, right? Pick one. And I picked the suitcase, so to speak.
Right.
I was already there. I went across the street and went to a 12-step meeting where I know we got to get to the book, but where they gave me the humility part of it, right? You make your own bed. You eat whatever food we serve. You do what we say if you want to stay in our building. You humble down. You're not special, right? And then the fellowship kicked in, right? There was 10 or 15 guys in there with me doing the same thing I was, right? There was another 100 guys across the street that were just 3 months into their sobriety, encouraging us, saying, come across the street, man. This is a good meeting. Come hang out with us. And then there was guys that had been there 6 months that might have had a new pair of shoes on or something, and they were cleaned up and they were healthy looking, you know, getting ready to complete the program. And maybe a couple of them have got their cars back, or they were looking to get jobs. And all of a sudden your pathway is cut for you. I have to go from here to over there where those guys are inviting me to this meeting. And maybe one of these days in 6 months, I can be one of those guys that's walking out the other side to go get a job. Right. And there was a pathway in front of me. And then there was a pathway also down the street there to the freaking tent city I was talking about. And I chose to follow the other guys in the fellowship. And I went through there, got a sponsor, completed all 12 steps. You ever heard the term, Callie, 90 and 90?
Yeah.
Doing 90 meetings? Okay.
Yeah.
We do 450 and 90. Okay. Cause there's 5 classes a day for the first 90 days. They might not be fellowship meetings, but they're all recovery classes out of the same damn book. Right. So we did 450 and 90. I became very versed in 12-step literature. Not an expert at recovery by any means. I'm versed in recovery literature. I'm versed in understanding what it's saying. And when I came out of the homeless shelter, it happened. I'm standing in this restaurant, and this guy walks in, and he was a guy that was he was still stuck in a methadone clinic that I had attended before, and he looked like shit. And I was standing there working. I had my chef coat on, and he walked by. He said hi to me. And I didn't tell you about this. It's in the book though, where I told these people at the methadone clinic that I didn't like them. They wouldn't let me lower my dose, all of that. And I told him, I said, one of these days, if I could do something about what y'all are doing, keeping people in here in a chemical prison locked and not allowing them to taper, if I can do something about it one of these days, I will. I told the clinic that. Everybody standing and the cop standing there, almost got arrested. So I tell them that. I see this guy walk by into the restaurant, and he looks like shit. And I just had this moment. I don't know why, Callie. I picked up my phone and recorded a video and told people that you don't have to stay stuck on Suboxone. You don't have to stay stuck on methadone. And here I am at 2 years sober, clean at the time. I'm like, and I'm proof of it. Look, I'm standing here working my job. I have my chef coat on. I've made it to head chef at this restaurant with a felony and years of drug and alcohol abuse. I don't use anymore. And look what I'm doing for a living. I was very proud of it, but I posted it hoping maybe one of these people would see it and be, hey, there's another way. Next thing you know, Callie, like a celebrity shared it, and my fucking inbox erupted with people from all over the country asking me, how did you do that? You know? So that's how I kind of arrived right here today. That was the start of the social media presence, the writing the book, the building the treatment center.
That's awesome. That's a great story. Now, we're out of time. So tell people the name of the book, when's it coming out, how can they find you, how can they connect with you, and how can they check out the new treatment center?
Okay, I'm on Facebook at James Sweezie Live. If you put Live right behind my name, it's James Sweasy, and then the word live. Or you put in jamessweezie.com on the internet. My site is there. It will lead you to my social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So yeah, you can just Google my name, I guess. The new treatment center, the RobertAlexanderCenter.com, is not open. We're under construction, but that's why my page is called Live. I document everything I do live on the internet, and I'm, kind of hard to document the writing of a book, but my book should be out in around October. It'll be available on Books A Million, Barnes and Noble. Yeah. Kindle,
iBooks,
Amazon. There, thank you. The big one I missed, of course. So yeah, it'll be available on all the major sites. It's called Felon, A Story of Success. And what I'm trying to do is not put a recovery story, even though the recovery story is in the book. I want this to be more of an instruction manual or an inspirational manual to show people, if you're a felon, that it does not count you out. Okay. If you've made mistakes in your past, it does not count you out from living life. We have this voice in our head that tells us that, oh, you can't do this. You can't be, you couldn't own a treatment center, or you couldn't be I travel and speak all over the country. You can't do that because of your past, right? That voice that tells people that inside their head is not actually their own voice. It's someone else's voice that has been programmed into them by the system, and it's bullshit. So the book is hopefully an instruction manual to get you past that block in your mind that makes you think you're not worthy. So all of this documented on James Sweezie Live at Facebook.
Awesome. We're going to put all those links up for our listeners so they can find you directly without calling me, asking me 50 questions. And
it's going to happen.
It always does. So we'll direct them over to your site and they
Sure.
can purchase the book, check out the treatment center, and connect with you. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to send you one. I'm going to get you to, what do they call it? Vouch for me or, I don't know, whatever it's called. I forget the terminology. I don't know. I'm losing my mind. I've been talking for 3 hours, Callie. You're the last stop of the day.
Awesome. Well, you've been listening to Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie Estes, the Addictions Coach, the Addictions Academy, and my guest today, James Sweezie. Have a great day, guys. Hey, everyone. Thanks again for listening. I really hope you enjoyed the show today. Head on over to iTunes and Apple Podcasts and leave a comment or review of what you think. Or contact us at 1-800-706-0318. If you want to be on our show, feel free to email or call. And if you have a topic, feel free to email or call as well.
Thanks for listening to Unpause Your Life. For show notes and more, head on over to unpauseyourlife.com.
Big shout out to recoveryinnovators.com for help producing this show. Thank you, guys.
I took a walk down the long road where they said that I shouldn't go. On my way found a reason to wake up another day. But they needed to show you all the things that you won't do. Find faith or religion, but nothing to show for it. No need to escape in love with my pain. I may be awake, but I'm alive, still alive, and I won't be bound by your mistake. No, I won't be your enemy, trapped at the gate. Bring me to life, put me to death. Just give me something that's just not so hard to believe. To believe. To believe. I took a walk down the dark road where they said that I shouldn't go. I knew the dangers of flying. Now I'm so far from solid ground. But they needed to show you all the things that you won't do. Find faith or religion, but nothing